The AI race is definitely on, but the finish line, well, it just keeps moving. So today, we're going to cut through all the hype and look ahead. We're talking about 6 critical shifts that are going to define who wins with AI in 2026. And this isn't just guesswork. This is a roadmap built on the latest thinking from places like McKinsey, OpenAI, and Gartner. This quote really hits the nail on the head. Because what's changing? Well, if 2025 was all about learning the tools, getting good with models and prompts, 2026 is going to be about mastering the strategy. The real leaders are already looking past the tech itself. They're focused on how it weaves into the very fabric of their business. So let's get into what that really means. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. We've got it organized into a 3-part journey. We'll kick things off with the human element, then we'll dive into how our actual work processes are being turned upside down, and finally, we'll wrap up with the super important topic of governance and, keeping things safe.
All right, first up, the human element. This is where AI gets personal. We're not just talking about how we work anymore, but how we think and how we actually connect with other humans.
And that brings us to the first major shift. It's a question we all kind of need to ask ourselves. Is AI making us lazy thinkers? I mean, are we leaning on these tools so much that we're starting to forget how to really think for ourselves? It's a serious concern, and honestly, it's already happening.
There's actually a scientific term for this, cognitive offloading. Just think of your brain like a muscle. The less you use it for critical thinking, the weaker it gets. And this isn't a theory. A study out of MIT found that people using ChatGPT for writing essays showed way less brain activity. They weren't just getting help, they were basically outsourcing their thinking. And the real-world consequences? They can be massive. We're talking about a top consulting firm having to repay a huge fee because their AI-assisted report was full of fake citations. I mean, academic papers that just didn't exist. That's exactly what happens when we trust without verifying. Your credibility goes right out the window.
So here's the paradox, right? The smarter and more powerful the AI gets, the more valuable your team's judgment becomes. The AI is the accelerator, for sure, but you have to be the one driving. Knowing when to step on the gas and when to slam on the brakes, that's the new competitive edge.
And speaking of judgment, that brings us to the second big human challenge, the absolute flood of AI slop. There's a reason Merriam-Webster made it their word of the year. We are all just drowning in this sea of generic, kind of soulless AI-generated content that's just clogging up everything.
But you know what? Here's the good news. People are smart. We're all getting wise to it. As you can see here, there's a clear and growing preference for stuff made by actual humans. We're kind of developing this sixth sense for what's real and what's not, and we're just learning to tune out all that noise.
So how do you stand out in a world where everything looks perfectly polished? You lean into being human. It's the real stuff, the raw experiences, the relatable stories that actually cut through. Share your real opinions, your data, even your mistakes. That's what builds trust.
Okay, so we've covered the human side of this equation. Now let's shift gears and look at how AI is completely re-architecting how work actually gets done. This is way beyond just automating a few tasks. We're talking about a full-on process revolution. I'm sure you've heard all the hype about autonomous AI agents, right? The truth is, the real action right now is in AI-powered workflows. An easy way to think about it is an agent is a totally self-driving car. A workflow is more like a car with really advanced cruise control. You are still in the driver's seat making all the important calls. And look, the numbers back this up completely. McKinsey found that fewer than 10% of companies are actually using those autonomous agents at any kind of scale. But AI workflows? OpenAI saw their usage just explode by 19 times in a single year. The message here is crystal clear. Workflows are where it's at, right now. And this is where it gets really interesting, because this creates a whole new dynamic. For decades, if you wanted something built, the IT department was the gatekeeper. But with these new AI-powered coding tools, that's all changing. Your people in marketing, in finance, in ops, they're becoming builders, creating their own solutions without waiting in line. I mean, just look at this number. It's staggering. 75%, 3/4 of employees say AI is letting them do things they literally could not do before. This is the democratization of innovation happening in real time. So, if you're a leader, what's the playbook? It's pretty straightforward. 1. Start building workflows now. Don't wait around for autonomous agents. 2. Train your teams in systems thinking, not just prompt writing. Teach them to be architects. And 3. Your tech team's role evolves.
they shift from building everything to owning the core architecture and the guardrails that keep everyone safe.
Of course, with all this new power and speed comes a massive challenge. As you start handing over the keys to more and more people, you have to ask, how do we make sure we've built the right guardrails to keep everything on track? Look, you can't watch over the AI's shoulder every second of the day, but you also can't just let it run wild. The solution is a smart system of checks and balances. You need human checkpoints for the really high-stakes stuff, continuous automated monitoring to catch errors, and a clear audit trail so you can always see who did what and when. But even the best system in the world is vulnerable if you let a bad actor in through the front door. And that's the danger of prompt injection. The best way to think about it is like a Trojan horse, a malicious command hidden inside a perfectly normal-looking email or document. And please, don't think this is just some hypothetical threat. Even the people at OpenAI who built these models admit that prompt injection is a problem that might never be fully solved. And why is that? Because it attacks the very thing that makes these models so powerful, their ability to understand natural human language.
So the strategy here isn't to hope it doesn't happen. The strategy is to assume it will happen and to design for containment from day one. That means limiting what the AI has permission to do, requiring human approval for anything high stakes, being really picky about your data sources, and treating any weird AI behavior as a potential security issue.
So let's bring it all home. How do you actually get ready for 2026? It's not about having the newest, flashiest AI model. It's about building a rock-solid foundation based on three things: your people, your processes, and your protection.
As AI just keeps getting faster and faster, the single most important question for every single leader is this one. AI is accelerating. Is your judgment keeping pace? Are you in the driver's seat, or are you just along for the ride? Because your answer to that is going to determine everything.